The summer heat in Millersburg, Ohio, clung thick and suffocating as Robert Anderson sat in his quiet apartment, his gaze drifting to a persistent ache beneath his collarbone. When he pressed there, his fingers met a firm lump, and dread, familiar since his wife Mary's death 3 years prior, washed over him. Just then, the phone rang, his daughter Amanda calling from Seattle. "Hey, Dad. How are you holding up?" she asked warmly. Robert's reply was terse. "Fine, just watching TV?" Brushed her off, muttering about needing space and deflecting her visit invitation. After hanging up, the silence felt heavier. His physical pain tangled with fresh guilt. That night the ache sharpened into a burning throb, jolting him awake in cold sweat. The suppressed fear demanded action. Trembling, he dialed the VA hospital and secured an appointment. Over the next 2 days, memories of his Vietnam service surged, especially the chemical showers of Agent Orange they'd been ordered under at the VA waiting room, sterile and impersonal. Dr. Mitchell examined the lump, brow furrowed, then summoned Dr. Reynolds, a specialist. "This inflammation isn't typical of cancer or arthritis," Reynolds noted. Robert, throat tight, mentioned his service. "Vietnam, 9th Infantry, 1969. We got sprayed a few times." The doctors exchanged a glance, ordered a biopsy. The procedure was quick, but the wait for results dragged. Amanda called again, voice concerned. "Dad, you didn't tell me about tests." Robert hesitated, downplaying it. "Just a checkup, nothing serious." When she offered to fly out, he refused, gently. "Don't worry, kiddo. I'll let you know." Finally, the doctors summoned him. The news was complex. Not cancer, but a severe delayed autoimmune reaction, likely triggered by dioxins from Agent Orange dormant in his body for decades. "You're just figuring this out now?" He muttered, disbelieving. Reynolds explained an experimental treatment, acknowledging risks but stressing its necessity to halt spreading. Then she added, "There's more. Your case could set a precedent. Many veterans might be dealing with this undiagnosed delayed condition." In that moment, Robert wasn't just a patient. He was part of a larger story, his experience pivotal to a hidden struggle shared by others. Beyond the consultation room, the hospital hummed with its routine rhythm. Nurses pacing, orderlies maneuvering carts, cars trickling into the lot. Yet inside Robert, something long dormant stirred. "All right," he said, voice steadier than he felt. "When's the first session?" "Never." Reynolds replied it would be the next morning. The treatment room, quiet and sterile, contrasted sharply with the chaotic military hospitals of his past. As the IV dripped anti-inflammatories and detox agents, warmth spread through his veins, followed by a bone-deep chill. Pressure built behind his ribs, tight and unrelenting. He stayed silent, jaw clenched, but by the end, sweat beaded his forehead, and his head felt light, manageable. He gritted out. Reynolds noted the quiet courage in his tone. Amanda, having flown in unannounced, stood pale and tense as Robert was wheeled back to his room. "Still here," he said weakly. She shook her head, staying. Later, Reynolds returned with grave news. 3 more veterans from heavily sprayed Agent Orange areas had nearly identical long mes. Diagnosed symptoms. "This could be a syndrome hidden for decades," Mitchell added. When Amanda pressed why it had gone unnoticed, Reynolds was blunt. The system didn't reward digging. Robert agreed to research without hesitation. Amanda, a project manager, offered to organize data. That night, searing chest pain tore through Robert. Alarms blared. Staff rushed in. His blood pressure plummeted, oxygen levels crashing. "Systemic inflammatory response," Reynolds announced. Voice tight, they stabilized him but moved him to a medically induced coma. All night, Amanda stayed, watching monitors flicker. Phone clutched at dawn, Reynolds updated. Robert was stable, but dangerously fragile. The treatment would need scaling back, slower, gentler. She also shared 3 more cases had emerged, and administrators were questioning her protocol and liability. Amanda's jaw tightened, her resolve hardened. Later, Administrator Howard Grayson visited, tone deceptively polite. As he voiced concerns about Reynolds' research scope, Amanda stepped forward, voice low but firm. "Shut this down. And I'll go to the press," Grayson said, nothing leaving without a word. Days crawled by. Robert remained motionless in the ICU, vitals steady. Amanda worked with Reynolds, compiling a growing case file that caught a CDC researcher's attention, studying similar inflammatory outbreaks. "It means we're not alone," Reynolds said. "This could impact thousands." Amanda glanced at her father, his silent form radiating resolve. "Then we'll make sure the world hears us," she said, voice steady. As Amanda pored over mapping symptom clusters from veterans nationwide, Dr. Reynolds updated her with measured optimism. By the 4th day, Robert stirred. A faint hand twitch. Amanda leaned close. "Dad?" His eyelids fluttered open, unfocused. "Hey," she said steady. "You're back." Robert groaned, throat parched. A nurse adjusted his oxygen. Reynolds arrived, lucid, but drained his voice. A rasp. "You gave us a scare," Reynolds said softly. He chuckled weakly. "Not my finest hour. Felt like a truck hit me." Amanda explained the treatment had pushed his system too hard, requiring the coma. Reynolds noted. The inflammation was receding on its own now, as if his body had finally fought back. "But shock," Robert smiled faintly. "Guess I'm stubborn." Stubborn as the poison they sprayed. But Reynolds's hope dimmed. Hospital administrators tightened control. Howard Grayson, the administrator, launched a review of her privileges, ordering Dr. Mitchell to focus solely on clinical work. They aimed to silence the investigation. Robert turned to Amanda. "Ernest, you've been tracking all this, haven't you?" She nodded at her laptop. A master spreadsheet, with data from a dozen veterans, thanks to you, Reynolds, and the CDC team. Robert's voice softened with regret. "I'm sorry. I never talked about Vietnam. Or your mom. About any of it." Amanda's throat tightened. "It's not too late, Dad." Dr. Mitchell rushed in. "Urgent, a legal memo banned external data sharing, requiring formal approval for Robert's case details." "They're cutting off the CDC," he said. "Want this buried under VA issues?" He handed Amanda a card. Senator Elizabeth Collins, chair of the Veterans Affairs Committee, whose staff investigated VA malpractice and wanted to speak with them. Hinting at a congressional hearing, Robert's jaw set. "I didn't walk out of that war alive. To wither from it 50 years later, if I can help others like me, I'm in." Amanda squeezed his hand. "Start today." That evening, she reached out, researchers, advocates, and journalist Elena Park, who replied at once. By dawn, Park arrived sharp and ready. Amanda laid out evidence. Spreadsheets, medical reports, emails. "My father and others deserve recognition, treatment, compensation," she said. Park's eyes narrowed. This could change everything. Meanwhile, Mind dissenter Reynolds was summoned to a closed-door VA legal meeting, ordered to halt external communications. She left silently. Later in the cafeteria, she and Amanda processed the ultimatum. "They're burying it," Reynolds said. Amanda's voice hardened. "Then, we go over their heads, leak the data to Elena, and share everything with the senator's office." Reynolds hesitated, then nodded. Make sure their suffering isn't in vain. The next morning, Amanda strode into a press room packed with cameras. Robert, propped on a hospital bed, drew strength from her. Elena raised her camera as Amanda stepped to the podium. "I'm Amanda Winters," she began. "My father, Robert Anderson, is a Vietnam veteran. He's not dying from old wounds. He's dying from a service condition the VA has never acknowledged." Behind her, screens flickered to MRIs, biopsy slides, charts of overlapping symptoms from veterans nationwide. "We have the proof, and we demand accountability." The story broke. Somewhere in an administrative office, Howard Grayson would soon learn. Silence was no longer an option, and a reckoning had begun. A few days later, the senator's office confirmed the Senate Veterans Affairs Committee hearing. Robert, Amanda, and Dr. Reynolds would testify that evening. Amanda sat by her father's bedside watching him sleep. "You did it, Dad," she whispered. "You'll be their voice." His eyes fluttered open and he squeezed her hand weakly. "I always wanted to come home," he murmured. She smiled through tears. "You're not just coming home. You're changing it." In the following days, Amanda's schedule spun with calls from congressional aides, advocacy groups, and journalists. Elena Park's exposé framing decades of institutional neglect through Robert's testimony aired nationally, sparking outrage, yet Robert grew quiet, often staring into space. One evening, she found him on the porch, gazing at the horizon. "I keep seeing their faces," he admitted. "Guys from my unit. Scared kids. We got sprayed, had rashes, fevers. They faded too soon. I think I'm the only one left." "You're not," Amanda said firmly. She told him about Thomas Lerner, an old unit member who'd reached out after the exposé. "He remembers the spraying. Dad, sick for years, misdiagnosed like you." Robert's hands trembled. "Tommy, I thought he was KIA in 71. 2 nights later, Amanda watched Robert speak to Lerner on the phone, a rare, bright laugh escaping him. Later he said, "He remembers. The spray burned like fire. We thought we were being punished." Lerner agreed to testify, then a breakthrough. A graduate student uncovered a 1969 declassified field report detailing an unscheduled defoliation operation over Robert's patrol grid, with a grainy photo of 3 soldiers huddled as chemical mist fell. "They said it wasn't worth logging," Robert said, voice hollow. "Our lives didn't matter enough to document." As January's hearing neared, Amanda's dining room became a war room, walls papered with timelines, medical records, and veteran testimonials. Robert dozed in his armchair, a notebook on his chest. One evening, he roused himself and handed it to her. "I wrote a speech," he said. She read. "I didn't come here to blame. I came to be heard." His words were simple, raw, and honest. "It's perfect," she whispered. 2 days before the hearing, an official envelope arrived from the Office of Inspector General, warning of potential Espionage Act consequences if Robert disclosed classified operational details. Amanda read it aloud, hands shaking. "They're trying to silence him," she said. Robert stood in the doorway, frail but steady. "We go anyway," he said. "I've been afraid my whole life. Of the war, of what came after. No more." The hearing room was cold, tension thick. Portraits of former senators stared down as Amanda took her seat beside Robert. Dr. Reynolds and Thomas Lerner flanked them, resolute. The room waited silently as committee members filed in. Robert glanced at Amanda, then at the empty microphone. He was no longer just a patient, a veteran, or a man haunted by the past. He was a voice, and he was ready to be heard. The hearing room buzzed with tension, packed with onlookers, journalists and veterans. Robert, his navy blue tie, a gift from granddaughter Lily, neat at his throat, sat between Amanda and Dr. Reynolds. Senator Collins opened, framing the focus, newly uncovered evidence of toxic exposure among Vietnam veterans. Robert spoke first, rising slowly. "I didn't come to accuse," he began, voice steady. "I came to be heard." He recounted deploying at 19, his faith in duty and the invisible poison he'd carried for decades. Holding up a photo of soldiers in chemical mist, he pointed to himself. "We didn't run. We thought it was just part of the job." Pausing, he added softly, "All I want is for no one else to suffer in silence." Dr. Reynolds followed, clinical, yet urgent. She outlined symptoms, years of misdiagnoses, and data linking dioxin to the delayed syndrome, citing 320 confirmed cases, and data linking to viro syndrome, the delayed syndrome, citing 320 confirmed cases, and made him his early CDC findings. Intent doesn't change consequence. She pressed. Veterans were exposed and left untreated. A skeptical senator challenged her, but she held firm. Thomas Lerner testified next, clutching a worn photo of his friend Frankie. He died in 87. "They called it leukemia," Lerner said, voice cracking. "Now I know it was the same as Robert's. How many more have to die quietly before someone listens?" During a recess, Robert's testimony rippled through the room. When it resumed, Senator Collins revealed a 1968 DoD toxicology report. A specific Agent Orange batch had dioxin levels 3 times the safety limit, yet was deployed. Robert nodded, confirming the timeline matched his service. Next, Seattle, VA Administrator Grayson was called. Under sharp questioning, he admitted concerns about overextending resources, limited exploratory research. Pressed on classified documents, he evaded his silence, telling Robert closed standing eyes on the cameras. "Not all wounds bleed," he said. "Some fester inside, silent for decades." Turning to Grayson, he added, "When I came to your hospital, I wanted a name for the pain. You tried to shut that down because it was too real. They thought we wouldn't live long enough to connect the dots. But here we are." Thunderous applause erupted. Senator Collins thanked him, honoring his service and testimony. The truth, long buried, was out. The reckoning had begun. The next morning in Seattle, a soft drizzle fell. The city felt still, as if holding its breath in the quiet after the storm. In the weeks following the Senate hearing, a quiet hope settled over the Anderson Winters home. Amanda, still at her dining room table, managed a steady stream of documents, media requests, and advocacy work, now amplified by headlines of solidarity, official recognition, and promises of expanded VA benefits. Senator Collins had pledged a formal working group and immediate review, and Robert settled in his armchair, held a letter from her acknowledging his courage. "They believe us," he said softly. Amanda nodded, gentle but firm. "The work's not done." Soon VA Secretary's representatives arrived unannounced, proposing an accelerated study to recognize delayed dioxin-induced syndrome, DDI, as a presumptive condition. Amanda and Dr. Reynolds stressed transparency over bureaucracy, and while compensation wasn't guaranteed, progress had begun. That evening, Amanda checked her email to find a note from Elena Park. Their story had gone viral, with 80 petition signatures in hours. Momentum swelled, but challenges persisted. A retired congressional staffer later shared internal VA memos, fretting over the financial cost of recognizing DDIS, hinting at political and budgetary fears. Robert remained resolute. "Doesn't mean we quit. Weeks bled into months. The working group convened, public support grew, and Robert appeared on a national talk show speaking of unfinished business between America and his mentor. Its veterans, Senator Collins, followed up, "I won't rest until DDIS is on the presumptive list." 3 months after the hearing, on a frigid February morning, Robert stood on the Capitol steps, leaning on a cane Amanda had gifted him. Surrounded by veterans, he watched the president sign DDIS into law, formally linking it to Agent Orange exposure. The pen used was handed to Robert, a keepsake he later placed beside his late wife Mary's obituary. Back in Seattle, relief took form. Hundreds of veterans began receiving care under the new guidelines, and millions were allocated for medical evaluations and research. Amanda's children, Lily, now a medical student, and Jason, contributed to the cause, weaving the fight into their family's story. Dr. Reynolds visited as a friend, bringing a New England Journal of Medicine issue featuring Robert's case. "You're a precedent," she told him. More studies were funded, ensuring the issue would endure. On Mary's anniversary, the family gathered at her gravesite. Jason presented a drawing capturing her steady, loving presence. Over dinner, Lily raised a glass. "To Grandpa, who fought 2 wars, one with bullets, one with silence, and won both." In his later years, Robert shared his story widely, inspiring murals, memoirs for his own medical curricula. A year after the law's signing, he delivered a keynote in Washington declaring, "We finally named the enemy not a soldier, not a gun, but silence." In his final years, Robert found peace watching his family carry his work forward. When he passed quietly one spring morning, he was laid to rest beside Mary under a cedar tree overlooking the sea. A plaque there bore his legacy: Robert Anderson, 1945202, soldier, survivor, truth teller. He came home at last. That's all about our stories. Do you have any thoughts after hearing the story? Please share it in the comments below.